Hello, football fans. Hopefully y'all had a great time watching the Super Bowl this last weekend, marking off the official end of the 2022-2023 NFL season. With all the sadness coming from the NFL season coming to an end and the offseason glooming over us, it gives us the opportunity to look ahead and look forward at the future. And the future looks electrifying with not one, not two, but the third debut of the XFL. Now I know what you're saying, but wasn't that the league that Vince McMahon tried starting twice? Well, yeah, but this time around, thankfully, he won't be the one running it. But instead, for the 2023 debut of the XFL, it's led by a man who's actually played the game of football on an NCAA Division I football program. A man who's shocked the globe in many different ways, from being the most electrifying man in sports to being Black Adam himself, the one, the only, the people's champ, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Alongside his ex-wife, Dany Garcia. Johnson and Garcia were actually the ones who bought the company from its previous bankrupt owner, Vince. From the start, it seems like the two want a great future and relationships between them and players and teams, so players feel equal, as well as support them in other opportunities that come around for them, say the NFL or the CFL maybe, which is something these players would appreciate from a guy like Dwayne, who's been in their shoes and has understood what's at stake. With all that being said, so much preparation has come for this league, from redrafting teams to training camps, and everyone is super excited for it, from players to Dwayne and Dany, and they're all ready to show out. But as of today, we are looking at all 8 teams in the XFL before their first games kick off this Saturday, February 18th. So let's talk about it. Starting off with the Arlington Renegades, who originally were the Dallas Renegades. They're looking for a clean slate coming into this season after being 2-3 and second in the XFL West in 2020. They already seem like a top team, starting with the coaching staff as head coach Bob Stoops rejoins the Renegades after a 2020 season. With Stoops, you already have the experience with him coaching for the last 33 years and multiple college programs, and won a national championship in 1997. His major stint was as the Oklahoma Sooners head coach from 1999 to 2016, dominating the Big 12 and winning the 2021 Alamo Bowl with the Sooners. The roster itself is very different from 2020, with not many big name players to look at. For offense, they'll have quarterback Kyle Slaughter starting for them. He brings a lot of good potential with him coming from the NFL, starting out as an undrafted rookie to Denver and bounced with 9 other teams since, along with his stint in the USFL in 2022 when he absolutely killed it, earning an all-USFL team nod for the season for being second in the league in passing yards with 1,798 yards and leading the New Orleans Breakers to having a top offense. On the defensive side, they have a leader in the secondary with former NFL safety Will Hill III. A lot of fans may know him from his time in the Baltimore Ravens for 2 seasons, making big plays on defense and special teams. Since then, he's appeared in the CFL with the AAFL, and then recently in 2020 with the St. Louis Battlehawks in the XFL when he had 2 picks in the 5 games they had because of the COVID pandemic, as well as being a top-rated safety in the XFL according to Pro Football Focus. On to another great team. We'll look at one of the top teams from the 2020 campaign. The DC Defenders are coming into this year with an interesting situation because they were a popular team in 2020 with former quarterback PJ Walker shredding every defense in the league, along with the top defense as well. This year, they've changed their head coach from Pep Hamilton to new head coach Reggie Barlow. Barlow was previously a former 2017 CIAA Coach of the Year for Virginia State University for the last 6 seasons, winning a Northern Division title and giving the Trojans their first undefeated season in school history. Barlow was also a former wide receiver and kick returner in the NFL, playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Oakland Raiders, and the Super Bowl 37 winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With the Defenders' first overall pick in the offensive draft, they selected running back Abram Smith out of Baylor. Abram, coming out of college, is a stud of a player who bounced around positions throughout his time as a Bear. Starting out as a running back who didn't get many carries his first 2 years, while also playing special teams, all the way to playing defense as a linebacker his junior year, getting 48 tackles and a sack while having 4 starts. Then his senior year changed, almost similar to Joe Burrow's transformation to his senior year at LSU. Starting at the running back position, having a single season school record of 1,621 rushing yards with a 6.1 yard per carry and 12 touchdowns. With those stats, I was shocked to hear that this kid didn't get drafted by anyone in the NFL. But he did get signed as an undrafted free agent to the New Orleans Saints and soon was waived by them. I'm super excited to see Abram go off this season and have a lot of eyes looking at him. On the defensive side for the defenders, with some former NFL players like Kentrell Brice, Niles Scott, and a few others, the one player that really stood out to me was defensive end out of Michigan State, Jacob Panasiu. Jacob had a great year during his redshirt season with having a career high in total tackles with 37 and sacks with 7 sacks. He tried his stint in the NFL, but got released by the Washington Commanders in 2022. With Jacob coming into the XFL, he has a lot to prove, but he looks like he is the best defender DC has. With the Houston Roughnecks, they're coming into the season with a big target on their back because they were by far the best team, having a 5-0 record before the season was canceled in 2020. And since then, they're still looking good, starting with their coach, former Super Bowl 50 winner, Coach Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips has had a tremendous 40-year coaching career, coaching for multiple different college and pro teams, from Oklahoma to the University of Kansas, all the way to the Denver Broncos, Buffalo Bills, Atlanta Falcons, and many more. But recently, he's coached the defense for the LA Rams for the past 3 seasons. Starting for the Roughnecks at quarterback, they took Cole McDonald out of Hawaii. Cole had a good career at Hawaii, who mainly shined in his sophomore and junior years and tried to go to the league afterwards. Cole in college had 4,135 passing yards and 33 touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns his junior year, slicing and dicing his way to a chance at the NFL. After waiting for so long, he got drafted by the Tennessee Titans in the 7th round, but was soon released by them afterwards. Since, he's looked great in the XFL workouts and has promise with his greatness coming out of college. The defense has a good mixture with youth and veteran players, with a young linebacker crew with Tavante Beckett and DeAndre Johnson, and a veteran cornerback room led by AJ Hendy. He had his most recent stint in the CFL for the Saskatchewan Roughriders for a season, getting an interception, and then previously for the New York Guardians in the 2020 XFL season, starting all 5 games before the season was canceled for COVID. Over in Orlando, with a new city in the XFL, we have the Guardians, who were originally in New York. They're looking to make an impact in a very competitive league. Before, they were coached by Kevin Gilbride, but is now coached by Terrell Buckley, who previously has been the DB's coach for the universities of Mississippi, Mississippi State, Louisville, and Akron. The thing that helps Terrell was the fact that he's a former 14-year NFL veteran and a Super Bowl 36 champion. The Guardians look pretty stacked on offense with Paxton Lynch as the starting quarterback that they recently signed. As many know, Paxton had a stint in the NFL after being selected in the 1st round by the Denver Broncos to be the next big guy to replace Peyton Manning. Lol. Long story short, it ended not so well for Paxton Lynch, having him bouncing around the league before ending up in the CFL and the USFL, but not playing much for either league. With a new chance in the XFL, hopefully it works out for him. At wide receiver, they took Charleston Rambo out of Oklahoma, who was a good receiver behind CeeDee Lamb, so he was second in majority of the stats on the team, with 43 receptions, 743 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns his last year at Oklahoma. With a new start and a great opportunity to shine on his own, will be exciting for the Guardians. For the defensive backs draft, they took CJ Holmes, 1st overall, coming out of Jackson State University, who was previously coached by primetime Deion Sanders. This last season, he was more physical and aggressive as his cornerback and got a career high in tackling stats, along with getting his first forced fumble and a block kick in his career. With the potential that young cornerback CJ has on that defense, having Buckley coach him, this team looks very exciting. The San Antonio Brahmas are the only really new team in the XFL, with a lot of inspiration, I'm sure, coming from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They're coming into this league swinging with NFL Hall of Famer wide receiver Hines Ward from Pittsburgh being the head coach, bringing in a champion's mentality as well as the swagger in all aspects of the game day operations. On offense, they had a steal in the XFL offensive draft in the 6th round with former NFL running back Kalen Ballage. As many may know, Ballage was a good gadget running back in the backfield who bounced around the league after getting drafted by the Miami Dolphins. He had one great game his rookie year with the Dolphins against the Vikings when he had over 120 rushing yards and a touchdown in that game. On the defensive side, their starting 3 defensive backs they took all have NFL experience. Luck Barku was an undrafted free agent to Jacksonville, coming out of San Diego State when he led college football in interceptions, pass defended, and pass breakups in 2019. Kerry Vincent Jr., who was drafted by the Broncos in the 2021 draft in the NFL. In college, he had a big jump from sophomore to junior year. In his junior year, he got 4 picks that year and won the NCAA title with the LSU Tigers. Lastly, Terrell Bonds came from the USFL recently, but has also played in the AAFL and the NFL for the Baltimore Ravens. With a new team coming into the league, it's going to be super exciting to see all of the NFL experienced players and Hines Ward get to work together in this league. The Seattle Dragons are returning to the XFL with a sort of edited type name coming around this time, as they're now the Seattle Sea Dragons, acknowledging the Pacific Northwest and Seattle, Washington. Hopefully they can change things up over there, because last time the Sea Dragons played, they ended up 1-4 and at the very bottom of their division. To help, Jim Haslett has come to be the new head coach of the Dragons as he came from Tennessee as an inside linebackers coach for the last 2 seasons, as well as having plenty of coaching experience in the NFL, NCAA, and a few little stints in the UFL and the WLAF. The Seattle Sea Dragons on offense are looking to have a 1-2 punch, starting with the quarterback with Ben DiNucci. As majority of us know, he's coming from his latest stint with the Dallas Cowboys after he had a crazy story in relief to back up quarterback Andy Dalton after getting injured from a concussion, who was already replacing Dak Prescott earlier this season because he broke his leg that same season. He made his official start on Sunday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. He went 21 of 40 on passes for 180 yards, lost 2 fumbles, and got sacked 4 times during the loss. Since then, we didn't see him play because he got placed down in the depth chart. He eventually got waived by Dallas, and then now he got drafted by the Seattle Sea Dragons as the next starting quarterback. The second part of that 1-2 punch comes from the wide receiver position. They selected Josh Gordon in the draft to hopefully get that star-studded receiver we've seen glimpses of in the NFL, with his last big stints being with the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks, both putting up insane numbers while his time was there. As we all know, why Josh Gordon has not seen the field much in his career, with Josh being suspended multiple times and being put in different treatments to help him with his drug situation. But we all know what kind of player Flash can be when he is at his A game, being a go up and grab it type receiver who could outrun everybody. With these two coming to the Pacific Northwest, I'm very excited as a fan to see what they can cook up on the offensive side of the ball. The St. Louis Battlehawks was another team in the XFL during 2020 that did pretty well, ending with a 3-2 record. They did have former NFL tight ends coach Jonathan Hayes as their GM and head coach at the time, but he is now over in Arlington being the offensive coordinator for the Renegades. Placing Hayes as the head coach now is Anthony Beck, who honestly was probably the weirdest choice I've ever seen in football since Jeff Saturday became the Colts head coach this season. Mainly because Anthony's highest level of experience I've found as a coach is that he was a tight ends coach for the AAF and then was a tight ends prep coach to help NFL scouts get looked at. Other than that, he's recently came from a high school head coaching job for Wiregrass Ranch High School. With not much actual head coaching experience, coming into a brand new league is going to be very interesting, but also very difficult, as we've seen firsthand with Jeff Saturday. But on offense, they look pretty solid with targets like Hakeem Butler, Gary Jennings, and former XFL receiver Austin Proell. The man who's going to be slinging the rock, though, is going to be NFL veteran A.J. McCarron. Many will recognize him from his time in Cincinnati when he played in the playoffs in the AFC wildcard round against the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2015. He threw for 23 of 41 passes for 212 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Sadly, it wouldn't be enough as they lost 18-16. Since then, A.J. McCarron has been in Oakland, Houston, and Atlanta, where he suffered a torn ACL during a preseason Week 2 game. Now, he's on the Battlehawks and looking to revive his career. At safety, they drafted Ben DeLuca from the University of North Carolina. He recently came from the LA Chargers after being signed as an undrafted free agent and soon to be released by them as well. In college, he was a big-time ball player, finishing with 313 tackles, 17 pass breakups, 9 forced fumbles, and recovering 6 of them, which are all school records, while also having 4 interceptions. While the Battlehawks look good on paper, we'll see how they'll be coached and how they'll react in game time. With the last team, but certainly not the least, we'll talk about today is the newly Las Vegas Vipers, coming from Tampa Bay. They're also coming in with a lot of chips on their shoulders, as they were also a 1-4 and the bottom of their division. This time around, though, they have NFL Hall of Fame cornerback Rod Woodson as their head coach, an all-time legend in Pittsburgh that, like Hines Ward, brings that champion mentality and major swag on all 3 phases of the game. Vegas really tried to make an impact in the draft, it seems like, by selecting 2 studs. One on offense we'll talk about first is a man who is well known from the city of Pittsburgh, when this man was catching balls for Big Ben alongside Antonio Brown. This receiver was an absolute game wrecker on the field whenever he lined up wide. That man was wide receiver Martavis Bryant. Whenever he was on the field, he would make miraculous plays and catches that not many other receivers could do. In the playoffs, whenever he was there, he'd ball out, with his biggest performance being against the Broncos in 2015 in the divisional round when he had 9 receptions for 154 yards in the loss. He also played well in his last playoff game in 2017 when he had 2 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Since then, he's been in and out of the NFL with drug policies, ending up in many different leagues until finally getting drafted by the Vipers in the 2022 XFL draft with their first pick. With quarterback Brett Hundley also on the roster, hopefully that'll help Martavis Bryant in the XFL. On the defensive side, they took another big-time player with their first pick in Vic Beasley Jr. As many may know, Vic Beasley was the 8th overall draft pick in the first round of the 2015 NFL Draft. Prior to that draft, Vic Beasley was praised by scouts and the media about his explosive ability to get off the ball and get to the quarterback. In 2016, he got awarded a first-team All-Pro. He became a Pro Bowler. He led the NFL in sacks and forced fumbles. Vic Beasley was an absolute dog on the field. But soon after that, he suffered a hamstring injury that sidelined him for a month. He didn't perform at as high of a level while recording 8 sacks in his 2019 season coming back from the injury. The Falcons refused to re-sign Vic Beasley for that, and he ended up leaving. Since then, he struggled trying to get back on the field, but it looks like he will after the Vipers took him first overall in the defensive front draft. All in all, each team individually has aspects of their team that makes them better than the rest. Some teams have better coaching staffs, and some teams have better players on their roster. There are also a lot of things that'll have to wait and see how it plays out in week 1. I'm super excited for the first week to kick off this Saturday, and I hope I made you a little more excited with these teams to officially begin the start of a new beginning in the football world. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and share button to let others know about the XFL season coming up. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see ya later.